Hello everyone, I am Example, obviously, and I'm here today to answer some questions that you kindly tweeted or Facebooked me about me and my career, courtesy of the lovely people at Amazon Music. So let's get cracking. There's a track called Microphone on my third album, Play in the Shadows. A lot of people love it. I think it's a good song, but it just didn't suit the album, didn't fit with the whole message of the album or the production. And I also made a song called Two Lives once on my second album, Work Quietly. Didn't really rate them. My first album, most of the songs are pretty bad. They're not, a lot of people liked it for various reasons, but I just think they weren't really ever me. They weren't the real me. My favourite song that I've ever written, most of them are on my fourth album, The Evolution of Man, because it's like my most personal, emotional album. And I'd say either Blood from a Stone, All My Lows, or Come Taste the Rainbow. They're probably my favourite that I've ever written. What superhero would I be? Sarah. Well, my favourite superhero movies have always been Batman. This was even before like the whole Christian Bale era. I was always a bit of a Batman nut. So I'd probably want to be Bruce Wayne. But in terms of powers, because he hasn't really got any powers as such, he's just got skills and money behind him. He's got some nice backers. I'd probably go for Superman. He's pretty invincible, isn't he? But I'm just not really into the clothes. You know what I mean? You want to look like Batman, but with Superman's skills. Tough one. I went to a shop with a voucher and I bought Michael Jackson Off the Wall, I think on cassette. Remember them? And I played it so much that the tape snapped, and I think I cried. And then as a Christmas present, my mum bought it to me on CD to replace it. How sweet. And it's still one of my favourite albums to this day. I do think that I'll go into directing films. I've written a horror film and a thriller. I've got the scripts ready. I'm sure I'll keep making changes to them until I actually get to make them one day. Later this year, I've got a couple of screen tests for movies. Obviously, that's acting and not directing. But I always wanted to be a director. I just never knew how I was going to go about doing it, and I never expected to be a musician. So music was almost an accident that I just sort of pounced on and thought, okay, I'm enjoying this. I know what to do. I know my place in the market. I know, you know, who I need to be, and I've enjoyed my time in music, and I'll continue to make music as long as there's a demand for it. But in the meantime, I feel like I need a new challenge, which is why I feel like I'm going to get into films. So I don't have a date or a name or anything for a project to announce for you, but it is definitely something in the pipeline. Good question. Obviously, playing on the name of my last single, Kids Again. What makes me feel like a kid again? Well, the song essentially was written about my wife and I, and how I suppose just the easiest, simplest, cheapest things can make you happy sometimes. And we spend a lot of time in Australia, and when we do stuff like mountain biking and rock climbing and fishing, going for runs up mountains and along the beach. And I think sometimes it's those things which make you forget that you need expensive clothes or cars or, you know, holidays and watches and computer games and all these things. So essentially Kids Again was just about enjoying the simple things in life and feeling young at heart. And I'm 32 this year. Not that I feel old at all. I feel young, much younger than that. But I think part of that is down to either, you know, your partner or your friends and what you get out of life. So go climb a tree. Well, Padam, you're a rapper. Rock is probably my favourite genre. When I was a teenager, whilst I listened to a lot of rap and jungle music at school, probably to try and fit in with everyone else, I was listening to a lot of like Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, Metallica, Prodigy in my spare time. So I always felt like a bit of a rock kid at heart, which is maybe why my my last album, was a bit like a electronic rock album. I always wanted to channel that. And I was lucky enough to have Graham Coxon, who's the guitarist from Blur. He played guitar on 5 tracks on my last album, which was a bit of a dream come true. So I've already kind of ticked off one of my sort of, teenage idols in terms of collaborations, having someone from Blur play with me. I mean, right now I'm a big fan. I've always loved Kasabian. I went to one of their first gigs 10 years ago. I'm a big fan of Dave Grohl and everything he's done. I like the Black Keys. I've been lucky enough to collaborate already with so many amazing people. Even a month ago I did a song with Jamie from the Klaxons, and his vocals are on my new album on a track called Innocent Minds. So I don't really go and search out collaborations as such, but if people approach me or I have a chance meeting with someone, it doesn't really matter on genre, but I tend to ask them if they want to get together and see what happens. Well, Laura, I've never decided I was cool. Luckily for me, I've found some success in this industry, and as a result, some people decide you're cool, maybe because you're on stage or you're on television or you're on posters. I never decided I was cool. I always felt like a bit of an outcast at school. All the way through college, I was probably one of the most uncool kids. Although I was always funny. I think comedy maybe gave me a little bit of an edge. But essentially, I don't think I ever decided I was cool. I went to university when I was 18 and thought, right, I'm going to rebrand myself. And bought a load of red jeans and dyed my hair blonde. But unfortunately, I'd have to wait another 10 years for someone to decide I was cool. There's not that many things I find really bad with fame. I think it's more of an adjustment period that you need to go through. I've been lucky enough to release 5 albums and tour, thousands of gigs over the course of 8 or 9 years. So for me, it's been a very gradual thing. Some people win a talent show and all of a sudden there's cameras outside their door and they've gone from 2,000 followers to 1 million followers. People are giving them abuse, people are stopping them in the street, and your world really changes. A lot of people get depressed or paranoid or scared to go out. I was very lucky that my success happened gradually over a number of singles and albums. I think maybe because a lot of my songs are so honest and real and about me, a lot of people feel like they know me. So when I'm in the street, people don't tend to stare or avoid me. They tend to just walk over and shake my hand like they already know me, like they might be my mate, which I don't mind at all. So I think some of the worst things to do with fame are, as much as you get compliments, you have to deal with a lot of abuse. And I'm fine dealing with it because I'm a 32-year-old man. I dealt with bullying as a kid. I've always been cool with it. I think it just worries me sometimes that there might be, a 17-year-old female singer-songwriter out there who's just signed her first deal and people are, being nasty over the internet. So I think abuse is probably, invasion of privacy are 2 of the worst things. But in terms of me not being able to go anywhere as such, I don't really mind. I think 3-4 years ago I stopped taking the tube because I was getting spotted all the time and then asked for autographs and photos, and I realised after a while that it was me who was making it awkward. It wasn't really them. And I just tend to find the nicer you ask people, the more you stop, ask them their name, what they're up to, shake their hand, smile, make the whole thing a lot smoother. The whole process is a lot easier to deal with for both people involved. So I wouldn't ever really complain about being famous because I don't really enjoy it as such. It's more like just deal with it and get on with it. How did I start? How did I get scouted? I don't really think I got scouted as such. It's not like a talent agency came after me, or even a manager, or even a record label. It's hard to explain because the industry has changed so much in like the last 10 years since when I started. When I started, I just kind of did music as a hobby, and with whatever little money I was making in my day job, I'd just put all of that back into hiring studios or getting my songs mixed, working with producers, getting my songs manufactured on vinyl. It's crazy to think that even 10 years ago people were manufacturing and selling vinyls as a means of music enjoyment. And really as a hobby, what started out as a hobby and having a couple of records, 12-inch records in shops all around the country, which I hand delivered in my mum's car. Someone somewhere handed a CD to someone at a national radio station, and it was Pete Tong, who was the first person to play on national radio. And these spot plays continued on radio, and that caught the attention of a number of record labels. One of the guys was Mike Skinner from The Streets, who just set up a new label, and I decided to sign to him and go on tour with The Streets for a year. And the whole experience just changed my view of what I wanted to do in life. And I went from just being a sort of jokey comedy lad rapper to learning production and singing and songwriting and how to perform and how to put a band together and about artwork and videos. So I think on the way to answer this is really just follow your heart and do as much as possible yourself. I don't think you should rely on other people too much, or enter talent competitions or expect someone to knock on your door one day. Sometimes it requires years and years of hard work and gigs and writing bad songs to maybe find the one good one. You maybe write 20 bad songs to find one good one. So I hope that helps. Could be so easy. What a great question. There's someone who obviously knows me because I love pizza. I wish I could eat it every day, but I'd be massive. And I wish I'd never had to listen to Pitbull. So, wow. I'd probably go with not eating pizza rather than listen to Pitbull for a whole year. I think the whole pizza thing, the reason I'd rather do that is I'd probably lose a bit of weight. Not that I'm fat or anything, but you can always lose a bit around the stomach. And when I had that first slice of pizza a year later, it would probably be the best pizza ever. So it'd be worth it just for that, to not have to listen to Pitbull, I think. Anyway, cheers.